we're so dysfunctional, but still inseparable. Yeah, we just never get it right. You're playing games with me and my sympathy, but not enough to say goodbye. Oh, 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 we stick together, but I know, oh, oh, it isn't for the better. No, that's just how we dance.
Good morning, guys. Welcome back, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Megan, and today we are working on a DIY project that I have never done, never even attempted before, and to be honest, I'm a little bit nervous. It's actually a part of the bedroom makeover that I'm doing for my oldest daughter, Kinsley, right now, and I thought it would just be a good opportunity to break this portion out into its own video, almost tutorial style, just because I know every time I attempt a new DIY, I get so nervous. Like, I barely slept last night in anticipation of having to do this and wanting to do it right. But today, for the very first time ever, I am attempting a board and batten wainscoting like hybrid. I'm here at Lowe's now, and I'm gonna go inside and see if I can find all of the right wood pieces and trim pieces, and also see if their saw is working today to get some of them cut down for me.
But if I were to let you go, if I would pack my bags and leave without you and be out there on my own.
Okay, so I went back and forth about what width to use, a 1x4, 1x6, and I actually decided on a 1x3. These are 8 feet long, so I'll get 2 cuts out of each of them. And don't worry, I'll definitely go over the math way more in depth with you when we get everything back home, and I can kind of show you the visual of the walls that we're working with and what the plan is.
We never brought those down yet, right? And then there's 4 in the hall, so that'll give us like 8. You already put 4 here.
So since I'm not doing a straightforward board and batten with just like all the straight edges and everything, I'm going to be adding trim pieces on the inside to give it a more professional, timeless look, in my opinion, and kind of just elevate it the smallest bit. So I need to find some trim portions that will fit inside of there, but then also that will complement our existing baseboards. They do have a little ridge detail up at the top of the baseboard, so it's like a smooth, flat portion and then like a little decorative kind of ridge. And so I was looking over here and I found these, which are PVC beadboard trim, it looks like, but they have that decorative ridge that I was talking about. And an added bonus is that they're only $4 each. They're 8 feet long, so I'll be able to make a lot of cuts with these and elevate the overall accent without spending too much more money.
So here we go again with silly arguments that always end up in a fight. But we can still pretend that this will never end. We just make up and let it slide. Oh, 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 we stick together, but I know, oh, oh, it isn't for the better. No, that's just how we dance with liquid confidence. We find each other every night. But if I were to let you go, if I would pack my bags and leave without you and be out there on my own, then I would fall into pieces, fall into pieces. Oh, 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 I would fall into pieces, fall into pieces. Oh, 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 I would fall into pieces, fall into pieces.
Okay, I have everything all loaded up in the car and we are heading home now. I was at Lowe's for almost 2 hours. It took so long just making sure that I had everything that I needed, checking and double checking, getting all of those cuts, and then also making sure that I had the paint that I needed. But I've got it all. At least I think I've got it all. I will say my local Lowe's is so generous with making cuts. In my experience, as long as you're nice and respectful of the employees, and also as long as they've got time, they will make as many straight cuts as you need. The only thing they don't do are miter cuts. So I got all of the 1x3s cut to the lengths that I needed, but all of my trim pieces I didn't get cut down at all, and I'm just going to use miter snips for those. I just wanted to say a huge shout out to the employees at my Lowe's, Danae and Matthew. They were absolutely fantastic. They were troopers. They made all of those cuts for me. I think I have absolutely everything that I need. And they even asked me what I was doing because they could see that I was filming. I told them I have a YouTube channel, and they subscribed like right then, which is so cool and so nice, and I just really appreciated them. So Matthew and Danae, if you're watching, thank you so much. But I'm about to pull into my neighborhood right now and unload all of this, and we're gonna see if I did my math right. I'm just gonna go ahead and apologize right now if it gets echoey in here, but with almost no furniture in this space anymore, it just is a little bit echoey. When doing all of the calculations and all of the math, I did not trust myself to just know what to do because I've never done a project like this before. So I used an online calculator. There are a ton of them that you can search up for free. I literally just Google searched Board and Batten calculator, and the very first one that popped up is the one that I used, and it was so helpful. So I put in the measurement of the wall and then also the measurement of the boards that I knew I wanted to use, which were 1x3, so the width is the 3. And I also put in 12 inches in between the spaces because I was pretty certain that that's what I wanted to do as far as like the spacing in between, and then I'll kind of fill it out a little bit more with the trim that I picked up. But anyway, I put that in and it calculated for me how many boards I needed in order to have that spacing. After figuring out all the math and all of the measurements, the next problem that I was running into is the baseboards. So a big mistake that I've seen a lot of people make when they're doing these DIYs that give it away that it is a DIY and not a hired job is that they won't do anything to make up for that, and they just put these battens up, and then there's an overhang, and then that creates a shadow onto the baseboard. And at first glance you might not notice it, but in person you see it right away that just doesn't look quite right, doesn't look quite finished. So to overcome that, I found this, what kind of molding is this? I'll have to look back on the footage. I'll leave all of the materials listed down below. But I found this, which has this little divot here. And so what it's going to do is line up with the baseboard and create this kind of little shelf here for the battens to sit on top of. So when I add the batten to just the baseboard, there's an overhang, but if I put it on top of this little ledge, it's more seamless. It just has a more professional finish, in my opinion. So I'm gonna start with this trim piece and then kind of work my way from the bottom up, trying to be as precise and level as possible.
I just wanna get you on my grid sometimes, on my grid sometimes. All my friends are saying that I waste my time, that I waste my time. I don't wanna tell you, I know if you care. Repeating my mind, rolling around, stuck in your bed. Burning temptation, I just cannot hide it. Late at night when I'm all alone, try not to think about it. Invade my thoughts with your honeycomb. Try not to think about it, but baby I do. I
I have already made a mistake, so I want to tell you about it. I did not measure these correctly and did some math errors even through using that calculator, and it was all my fault. It had nothing to do with the calculator. I was using 1x3 boards for the battens. That's what they're labeled as online and in the store when you pick them up. But when I did all of my 12-inch measurements in between, this last one over here had so much more space in it. It was very noticeable. So I went back and checked all my measurements. They were 12 inches, and I was like, what is going on here? So it took me a little bit to figure it out, but eventually I just measured the width of these battens just to make sure that I had gotten the right ones, and they're actually 2.5 inches wide. But then when I started to put on this top piece, I noticed that a few of these boards were not measured and cut properly. It's maybe like a 1/4 inch gap in between, but that's okay. I think I have a plan for how to fix that, and we'll get back to it a little bit later. But now it's time for me to put on the decorative trim inside of these spaces, and I'm starting to second guess myself. I brought it in from the car and have it laid out in front of me, and then I was just looking at it and I was like, this is pretty, like it is. But then I was holding the trim up and I was like, but that would be pretty too. So here is that trim that I had picked up, and I'm just gonna kind of slide it in here so you can see what it would look like, and it would just all the way around. I'd miter the edges and it would look like that, or we can just have these clean straight lines and not have any trim. In my opinion, the side that has the trim in it just looks like something a contractor would do, but the side that doesn't kind of looks unfinished. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the trim in the rest of these panels.
Hoping you will figure it all out somehow, Why I'm acting weird whenever you're around, oh, when you're around. I don't wanna tell you, I know if you care. Repeating my mind, rolling around, stuck in your bed, burning temptation. I just cannot hide it. Late at night when I'm all alone, try not to think about it. Invade my thoughts with your honeycomb. Try not to think about it. But baby,
Okay, now that I've got all of the trim pieces up, I did add another piece of this cove molding is what it's called. I remembered like halfway through, but I did add this on top to give it a finished look so it kind of mirrors the bottom portion. But anyway, I have all of the trim pieces up, all of the inside trim pieces, and now I can fix these little mistakes here. I did remeasure them and they are 1/4 inch off, but that's okay. So I have some of this poly foam caulk saver, and I'm just going to cut out some pieces and kind of push it into this gap, and that will fill that space. If it was a larger gap, I wouldn't do this. I would just remeasure and recut some pieces, but I did purchase all of the 1x3s that Lowe's had in stock today, and I also don't want to take these down and cut them, recut them, so this is going to work just as well. Day 2, how silly was I to think that this would be a one-day project? It never is, right? But I caulked everything and then used wood filler in all of the holes everywhere, and then also over the caulking in those big gaps. And with these kind of straight boards, I just went ahead and hand sanded down the wood filler. But in all of these details, I'm using This is a Scrub Daddy sponge, but you could also get a sanding sponge. They do have those at the hardware store. And I'm sanding things down with this. There is quite a bit of sanding dust and debris left behind though from all of the sanding. So I'm gonna go ahead and vacuum that up before I start painting.
This town's so lame, I'm feeling so wired. It's 4 a.m., I'm not even tired. We're in your car, we can drive away. Oh yeah, we're almost there. I'm loving this feeling of something new. Just right what I needed. Take me there, we can drive away. Oh yeah. Listen to the midnight radio. Listen to the midnight radio. We can drive through the night, sing along to the midnight radio. Don't wanna wait all my life, can't remain no delay.
Okay, let me pause for a second because I got some paint on the floor, and I often get asked why I don't use a drop cloth or cut in on the edges or protect anything, and it's because I use water-based paints. So as long as you get to a drip or a spill right away, it just wipes up with water and it's like it was never there.
Listen to the midnight radio. Listen to the midnight radio. We can drive through the night, sing along to the midnight radio. Don't wanna wait all my life, can't remain no delay, gotta let go. We can drive through the night, sing along to the midnight radio. Don't wanna wait all my life, can't remain no delay, gotta let go. Listen to the midnight radio. Listen to the midnight radio. We can drive through the night. Oh, don't wanna wait all night. We can drive through the night, sing along to the midnight.
Okay, I'm all done with that first coat of paint, and this is the part where I have to remind myself, trust the process. It will all come together, just trust the process. The first coat always looks terrible, and I didn't use a primer, so I knew I was going to need at least 2 coats because of how deep that purple was before. But in the meantime, I've covered my brush and roller with tin foil and put the lid on the paint so that it doesn't dry out.
Yeah. I don't wanna be the girl, but I kinda need a word. Well, I'm into you. And all I know, it's been a long time. I was on the sideline waiting for you. We could go to California or anywhere you wanna. As long as I'm with you, I'm alright. And we don't need the drama. We'll find our own nirvana. So run away with me tonight. 'Cause it feels like I'm dreaming when I'm waking up next to you. And my wild heart is beating because
while this second coat of paint dries, I figured I'd just go ahead and paint the outlet covers so that they blend into the wall a little bit better. This is something I started doing a few years ago on these little room makeovers, and they make such a big difference. I'm just going to use whatever is left over on my roller brush because I want it to be smooth and not have any brush strokes. So I'll just get most of that paint off and then hold it by the back of the screw that's in the center, because I do want to paint the screw as well since it is colored. And I just roll that paint on just like that. Usually one coat is more than enough to do it. Just make sure that it gets all over, including the edges, which is why I hold it by the screw instead of laying it down flat. And then after I've got it all painted, I'll just put it down on the tin foil until it dries, and once the wall is dry, I will put them back up there and they just kind of blend in instead of sticking out like a sore thumb.
The sun's going down as I try to make my way through the crowd. Feeling alive, I love being by your side. It makes me shine. We got one summer, so let's make it count. You make me feel like everything's alright. Let's dance our problems away in the night. Love being right next to you.
Okay, I have let this dry for the 1 hour so that it's like dry to the touch, and I put that outlet cover back on. I told you guys it would just like blend right into the wall. It is such a small detail, but it really does make a world of difference. But this is all finished. I am going to let it dry overnight before I put the wallpaper up on this section, and I cannot wait to share that. That will be in like the full bedroom makeover, so make sure that you come back to check out how the room all comes together. But this is going to wrap up today's video, so I hope that you all enjoyed coming along on this journey with me. I had so much fun working on this DIY, and I hope that it was helpful to any of you who may be considering doing something like this in your own home. If you did enjoy it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you aren't already. I'd love to have you join my little YouTube family, and don't forget to come back for part 2, the full bedroom transformation. But anyway, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you all in the next one.